So after a very short day off yesterday, we're back to filming, and I want to look today at AMC. Whilst it's Sunday and the markets are not open right now, I think there's a lot that we should really speak about before the markets do commence. I want to talk specifically about what I am expecting this week for AMC, as I think it could be a significant one. Now, if you watched our last video, you'll know a bit about what I'm talking about here, but for the wider context, for those that don't know, I'm sure most people do, AMC shares have been down a lot in the past 5 days. Now, when we started off last week, it looked like AMC could actually recover. It looked like we could see this one remain above $10, but as news came out regarding the company, I think it became immediately apparent that that was not going to be the case. Anyway, the question is now not what happens in the past, because that's obviously known. The question is, what do we do about it and what do we expect for this week? Now, there's a few things that I'm personally looking for AMC this week. One thing that I would say is I am looking for it. It's still going to be on my radar of stocks to watch. I'm interested in seeing how this one moves. However, I expect that this one could probably see some more downside this week. I mean, in our last video, I spoke about the fact that the news that we saw was just not good. It's not what we wanted to see, and subsequently AMC stock's been, well, really tanking ever since. I mean, hopefully over here we'll be able to get the after hours up, and we can. You can see that trend for the after hours. We saw a continued drop, and whilst it wasn't that big, just look on the 5-day chart, what we're seeing. Look at these consistent drops down, day after day after day. And I don't know if that's going to continue, but I don't expect this level of $8 to realistically hold up. I know that we've obviously just dropped below it for a brief moment, but I think it's probably going to remain to be the case. So I wouldn't be surprised if AMC stock drops a bit more this week. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, I think that's a bigger question, because whilst we can all make speculations, none of us know what's going to really happen. We just have the data that we have to go off. But what does it mean to us? What does it genuinely mean? Well, there's two perspectives of which I'm going to be viewing this one. There's going to be the people who own, the people who expect to squeeze, and actually I'm going to add a third one in, the people who do not own. So I'm aware that some people own AMC just to own it. Maybe they think it's a good investment company, maybe they're interested in it. And then I know there's people who expect a squeeze, and of course people who don't own. Now, I need to address the group expecting a squeeze first. I don't know, I don't really care, to be honest, if people like this fact or not. It's my opinion. And like I say, I'm just lying if I don't share my honest opinion. I can't see this one hitting a squeeze now at all. Every single time we have something where it's looking like this could be the case, we get news which would negatively impact a squeeze. Like, sure, it might be good for the company, but that's not what a lot of AMC investors are here for. If you invested back up here, around any time in this period, I just don't see AMC going back to that price point. I mean, obviously we've had a reverse split, which has influenced the numbers. So it used to be like $71, now it's $250 almost. But to see that, we need to see some massive jumps, and if I'm honest, I just can't see that happening. We need to see several hundreds, if not even thousands, when we think about it, percent of jump. It's not happening, in my opinion. So I guess at this point, if I owned AMC shares, I'd probably have to cut my losses, and I did this myself quite some time ago. I spoke about that at the time, and now it's just the way it sometimes is. I mean, with any stock, it's about managing your risk always, and if you held a stock to 70, 80, 90% down, we could have that conversation anyway, but there's no point dwelling on the past. I personally would not be holding AMC stock anymore if I was looking for a squeeze, and that's just my opinion. Now, for a more long-term investment, potentially a great company, however, still not the right moment in my opinion. Like, if this dilution is going to happen, if more shares are going to get offered into the market, supply and demand rules indicate, and of course the fact that apes, the people who wanted to see a squeeze, expected good news, not bad, I think that's going to create two things. One, decreased demand, and two, an added selling pressure as people who owned AMC shares are unfortunately now realising that, hey, this company might not be the best for a squeeze play anymore. So, I think we're going to see more and more people selling out, to be honest, and because of that, I think the company could see further drops. So, no matter what your affiliations are with AMC, this week is going to be very much one to watch. Potential entry for people looking long term in the next couple of weeks, but I don't know if we expect it now. However, if I was an investor in AMC, obviously it's one of those things, and I have been myself, and I did actually lose quite a significant value myself, but we all have our point, right, where no matter what happens, we've got to take our profits at this point, we've got to take our losses at this point, and the same's true for me. So it's about seeing what we can learn from this, right? You never lose, you always learn. So what have we learned and what do we expect? But depending on how much capital of your initial investment you've got left, I would play it differently. If I held and I'd lost what? Well, let's have a look. If I'd held to a point where I'd lost 96% of my capital, I don't know if there's any point in even selling, to be honest, but I do expect it to even go lower from there. But let's face it, most people aren't going to recoup money from that point. But if you bought in maybe 34, you still have made a significant loss, but it's slightly less bad. So it's always about asking those questions as to what you can do now. And of course, I cannot make those decisions for you. I can only make them for myself. But a big week I expect for AMC price. A lot of volatility I'm anticipating. And that has been the case really for some time now. And it really is just a shame that it's played out like this. Again, it's not necessarily that the potential for this was bad. I think what really messed it up is the fact that every time we had something that could have been an actual bullish factor for a squeeze, it was diminished in a way by the way that the company's management played it out. And yes, of course a company doesn't want a squeeze. It makes sense. But when people save your company, you may have expected at least some sort of a good deal for the shareholders. Anyway, what I would like to do in the next couple of days, and I know I'm just ranting here, having a discussion, and there's not really much to look at visually, but what I want to do in the next week or so is have a discussion, and I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing it. Please drop me a comment if you're still watching to this point, but I don't know if you want to see a discussion where we look at specifically what went wrong with AMC, like specifically what factors led to no potential for a squeeze anymore, in my opinion. I think it really started to go wrong at the ape, when the shares were essentially diluted in a way, or rather split, I should say, into ape and AMC. That is when I thought I should have sold that before, but foolishly I didn't. I held that, and again I lost like 50% of my capital in a week or two after the split. It was at that point I realised, in my opinion, this play, not for everybody. And, all the signs were there in the start. It looked good for a short squeeze, but when you have management that plays it in a way like this, that's not the case anymore. Again, the company's had great earnings, I will agree with that point. That is absolutely the case. And fundamentally, you could argue it's even stronger than ever. And that's obviously good. But we've got to acknowledge this for what it is. As much as we can say that, that's one thing if you're looking to invest now. A lot of people have been invested in this one for a very considerable amount of time, and subsequently will have seen some negative downsides because of that. But I guess you live and you learn, and that's what I'd say for AMC this week. A lot I'm expecting. I don't think it's going to be anything to save people who bought in high, but I think for others looking to enter, it's going to be an interesting point to keep your eye on. Anyway, I want to see what news comes out with AMC and how investors feel about this one, so do drop me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way until the end, and yeah, it's a shame that we're even making this episode. It's not one that I wanted to ever be making, but this is a situation now, and I know a lot of people are still interested in the AMC world, so that's why I continue to make these videos, but I think it's also about shining the light on how things are actually going with AMC stock. So that's really all I wanted to say for this one. Thank you for watching it till this point, and again, I hope to see you in our next one, which is coming out, of course, very soon. Thank you so much, and see you soon.